Hey everybody, it's me, Vacuuminator, back here, back again, back for another fucking video. Even though I just made one, because you know it's not like I have a life or a job or a family or anything. No, making videos is all I do, and you know if it takes a really long time for one to come out, and it's not the best thing ever, then I must just be a lazy, dead piece of shit, right? But I'm getting off track here. Heck, I never was on track. What's this video we're making about again?
Tommy Oliver.
And why is it about Tommy Oliver again?
Because, man, he's the original Sixth Ranger, brother, and he's the character that's appeared the most in Power Rangers, dude. And you've never talked about him on your channel before, Jack. And you just made a whole video where you kept talking about the original five, but kept tiptoeing around mentioning him like he's Voldemort or something, Mean Gene. And I've been watching you, guy, and this isn't the first time you've ignored Tommy, buddy, or made some kind of backhanded comment about him, pal. So I want to know what your deal is, friend. I want to know what your opinion on the character is, brother. And don't hold back, cat. I want the full story here, Dunkaroo.
Okay, but I really doubt you're gonna get what you want out of this.
And what is that supposed to mean, Daddy-o?
Well, sonny boy, just look at yourself. You're covered head to toe in Tommy paraphernalia. You call yourself Ranger T, so you're clearly a fan of the character, whereas I'm less so.
Oh, what? You trying to scare me, man? Cause that's not gonna work, dog. I've been around the block, brother, and I fought tons of people who didn't like Tommy before, bro. Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Power Rangers Now, Morphin Legacy. I've been down every road, my good sir. And you know what the one thing they all had in common was, mister? They were all willing to speak their minds and talk shit openly, guy. Unlike you, who's being a tight-lipped wuss at the moment, bub.
Whoa, hey, you need to slow it down there.
Who runs and hides, Jack, and moves 2 times within 6 months, main man?
Hey, I had good reason for doing it.
Oh, really? Well, what was it then, number one?
It's, well, I kinda got screwed over by my property management company. But wait! Why am I telling you this? Why am I telling them this? I don't need to justify myself to you people! Besides, wasn't there something else you wanted?
Oh, I didn't forget about that, Macho Man. I'm still waiting for your side of the story, Rock. So lay it on me, Kunk. I'm ready to hear what you think of Tommy, Strowman.
Good, fine. But never forget, I was avoiding this. I didn't want to be in this part of the conversation. But you forced me to. So whatever comes next, you've no one but yourself to blame for it. Cluster punk. Tommy Oliver is without a doubt the most overrated character in Power Rangers. This is mostly due to nostalgia, as Tommy was the first Sixth Ranger in the franchise's history. His character came in at a time when it seemed like this new Power Rangers thing was finally starting to settle into its formula. And when he first appeared, he was a threat to the Rangers, a real threat, not some rubber suit monster of the week with a goofy plan, but another Ranger with powers and weapons of his own which he could use to beat the snot out of the original 5. This was a big deal to all the kids watching MMPR back in the day, and as Tommy continued on as a main character after being freed from Rita's spell, he would go on to take on other power sets beyond Green and would eventually become the leader of the team, which cemented him in his place as the sort of Vegeta of Power Rangers, a rogue element that once posed a major threat to our heroes, now working with them to save the day from even bigger threats.
What? I don't get it, Monitor. You're saying the character's overrated, but the way you're describing his past sounds like you have a lot of respect for him, Watcher.
What? No. Were you even listening to a word I said? I was talking about the general opinion on him, not my own. From my perspective, people just love Tommy because they're nostalgia blind and can't get past the first season of MMPR, not because he's an actually good or interesting character.
But you just said that!
I said the base concept for Tommy was interesting. But the thing is, Nothing about his actual character comes close to that. Once Tommy becomes a regular member of the Ranger team, he doesn't really get that much development. Sure, he gets focus episodes by the truckload, but we never get to learn much about him in those because most of them are about him being under threat of going evil again, losing his powers, or obtaining new ones. Even once we get out of MMPR and into Zeo and Turbo, we don't really get much about him that sets him apart from the rest of the team. Sure, he likes martial arts and takes physical fitness seriously, but that's nothing we haven't seen from a Ranger before at this point. Oh, he has a long-lost brother and likes to race sports cars with his rich uncle? Well, that certainly informs his actions when leading the rest of the team. Honestly, Tommy always comes off as a sort of everyman to me, more than some great badass leader anyway. Which would be fine if that's what the show treated him as instead of the most important member like it does 80% of the time.
What? How can you say that, Accuser? He's the most popular Ranger. He's had the most appearances. I don't understand how you could think so little of him, Judge.
Simple. Stuff like that doesn't matter to me. What other people think and how that leads to a character coming back from time to time isn't that interesting when discussing the show. I look at what is there in the actual content and call that as I see it. And when it comes to Tommy, I see a character the writers didn't have a lot of ideas for beyond his first appearance, but he was kept around because kids couldn't get enough of him.
Oh, come on, man. There's gotta be something you like about him, dude.
Of course there's things to like about Tommy, but most of them don't come until after the time period most people remember him from. In fact, the only Tommy episodes from the Zordon era that I really like are White Light and King for a Day. Two episodes that actually feature very little of the character but do a lot with him and the other members of the team. However, that's about the extent of my appreciation for him in that part of the show's history. No, it's not until we get to Dino Thunder, the last season of the show he was a main cast member of, that I really start enjoying his character. In that season, Tommy takes up the mantle of Ranger once more while also acting as a sort of mentor to the main three Rangers of the season. A little under halfway through the season, while also fighting the evil White Ranger, Tommy is encased in an Ember prison, and a couple episodes later, when he is freed, he finds he can't demorph. This begins an arc that runs through the whole middle of Dino Thunder of Tommy being stuck as the Black Brachio Ranger. He does eventually find a way to power down, but when he does, underneath the suit he's still invisible. And when he finds a way out of that, it puts him in a coma that threatens his life. During the coma, he enters a sort of dream world where he battles his past Rangers manifested as their own people. He defeats Zeo Ranger 5 and the White Ranger, but when the Green Ranger gets the upper hand on him, he tells Tommy to give up the fight already, saying that he's gotten too old and can't hope to keep going on like this. To which Tommy replies that that's the one thing he'll never do. At that, the Green Ranger tells him he's passed the test, and that he wasn't really fighting his past selves, but fighting for his life. And after that, he finally returns to normal and is able to fully help the other Rangers again. This arc, though a bit drawn out, is probably the best thing that's ever been done with Tommy's character. It's a great, almost metatextual commentary on him. Like I said earlier, Tommy always gave off the impression that he was only still around because the audience still bought a ton of his toys and the actor hadn't said he wanted to leave yet. And a lot of his early stories mainly centered around his powers and his fight as a ranger rather than him as a person. This arc shows that that is because being a ranger was all his life was really about after Rita turned him into the Green Ranger. It consumed him and took over his life such that when he reached the point he needed to figure out what he wanted to do with the rest of his life after graduating high school, he had to leave the team to do that. But then he got pulled back into being a ranger by the battle against Mesogog. It once again took over everything, to the point where Tommy Oliver didn't exist anymore, just the Black Brachio Ranger, and underneath that facade, there was nothing. He had to look inward and find himself again, and see that he needed to keep a balance of his life as Tommy Oliver and his life as the Black Brachio Ranger. And I think with that arc, Dino Thunder would have made a great end for Tommy's character. Unfortunately, it had to be ruined several years later by him coming back in Super Megaforce as the Green Ranger, because none of the casuals remembered Dino Thunder or that the Green Ranger powers were rendered useless in the later part of MMPR, just that Tommy was the cool green one from when they were little.
Whoa, Ace. Seems like you have a real problem with people who like Tommy.
No, not really. I mean, other than you, I've never really gotten into a big argument with someone about him. And my problem is more so about how they tend to affect the show in less than desirable ways. Or when they try to convince me that his actor is a good person.
What? How could you say that, punk? He's such a cool guy, dick!
No, of course not. The guy's been one of the biggest dicks in Toku since he got his start.
You're messing with me, aren't you, Bobby B?
Oh no. JDF is, to put it simply, an overgrown frat boy. Most people know the recent exploits that earn him that definition, but it all really got started back during the filming of MMPR, when, according to several interviews with people who worked on the show, he would often play rude pranks on his co-stars even when they asked him to tone it down, and would run around in the crowds acting like a wild man during public appearances, even though he was supposed to remain on stage with the rest of the cast. And that's a little upsetting but understandable given his age at the time, until you hear that it's often rumored that he was one of the people who bullied David Yost on set due to his being gay, which led to Yost unceremoniously leaving the show during Zeo. Though it actually happening has never been confirmed or denied by Frank or Yost to my knowledge. It's also rumored that the whole reason for the arc in Dino Thunder that I praised was that during the filming of the season, when JDF's wife, who was pregnant at the time, got close to her due date, he walked off set and flew back to the States to be there for the birth. Now, I can empathize with his reasons for doing that, but the rumor also often states that he was under contract to be there for the whole filming and therefore broke his contract by leaving. So, if it is true, it was a pretty scummy thing to do, even though it did lead to rewrites that created the best thing to ever happen to his character. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. As Super Megaforce was airing, Bandai launched a contest in March called Morphin Madness, in which fans were asked to vote which Rangers they wanted to be in an exclusive Ranger key set that would be given to the winners of the Morphin Madness sweepstakes, which you could enter on the same site the event was being hosted on. The contest went pretty much as planned for its first few weeks, with fans voting mostly for Rangers who hadn't been given keys in the American line yet, and encouraging others to do so as well. However, when actors from the show's past caught wind of the event and somehow got the misinformation that it was more of a popularity contest than anything else, JDF of course jumped in and started very loudly telling his massive army of followers on social media to go vote for his character's Ranger personas exclusively. A lot of fans who were already voting became very angry with this, as it was pretty obvious that all of Tommy's powers would be getting keys no matter what due to his poster boy status. And when they managed to get one of JDF's characters voted out, he started claiming the whole contest was rigged, and actually got someone at Bandai to reset the voting to be more in his favor, allowing the White Ranger to become one of the winners. Now you may be thinking, rigging a fan contest to get another toy of himself made? He can't stoop much lower than that. And you'd be wrong, because when the 2017 Power Rangers reboot movie was first announced by Saban and Lionsgate, JDF tweeted out the private information of several heads of both companies, telling his followers to spam them with messages saying to put him in the movie, which forced those people to change their phone numbers and emails. Which may seem horrible enough, but as anyone who has actually seen the movie will tell you, he got what he wanted in the form of a cameo during one of the movie's final scenes, and was even invited to the Hollywood premiere, which he then got kicked out of for trying to record said cameo with his cell phone. Because when someone does what is basically the biggest no-no in Hollywood, the appropriate course of action is of course to give them exactly what they were trying to get by doing that in the first place, and then be surprised when they do something shitty again. Oh wait, no it's not. The thing you're supposed to do is to sue that person, and then after you win the suit, never work with them again. But who am I kidding? Saban will never turn on Tommy and JDF as long as they're still making them money. And I could go on to list things like the fact that his convention contracts often state that if he is to appear, Austin St. John can't because it would draw too much attention away from him, or his often inappropriate misuse of Instagram, which features several discomforting videos of his wife. But I think you get the point. JDF is a glory-hounding, self-obsessed asshole who, as far as Power Rangers is concerned, has always had everything handed to him on a silver platter.
Whoa, you really do hate him. And more than almost anyone I've ever met at that, broski.
What? No, I don't.
But you just spent like 10 minutes trashing him, Doodless!
Look, D, it's undeniable that JDF is not a good guy, but I don't hate him. Not anymore, anyway. The thing is, I spent a long time hating JDF, thinking he was the scum of the earth and going out of my way to talk shit about him online. But after going through things like getting into this living situation, losing some friends, watching the Maddox and JonTron debacles happen, getting into politics and then very quickly getting out of them after the shit show that was 2016, and now having you show up to fuck with me after I tried very hard to get away from this kind of shit, I've come to realize there's more important things to worry about than what some egotistical actor turned MMA fighter turned con whore turned actor does. These days I more so view it as another source of entertainment, like, oh, I've had a shitty day at work, but Twitter's ablaze with hashtag JDF. I wonder what stupid thing he did and who's upset about it. That ought to be good for a passing laugh. JDF's a douchebag, but he's no more of a bother to me than some leathery old wrestler who got caught saying a racial slur someone his age would probably still use anyway. Yeah, I don't condone what he does, but it doesn't really affect anyone's life outside of a minor annoyance we'll all forget about in a week, so who cares? It's a funny sideshow, and the people who actually get upset are part of it, so I try to just do what I would do with an actual sideshow. Point, have a chuckle, and move on to the actual problems in my life. So yeah, I care about this show being good, but not JDF. So when he acts like a dick, I try not to get too worked up over it, and when the show's bad and people say it's not, I point out why they're wrong and hope they come to their senses. Make sense?
What the fuck did you just call me, brother? Did you just imply that I'm wrong for liking Tommy, man?
Well, that is kind of what I've been doing for the last few minutes here.
You know what? Screw you and your Grizzly Adams-looking beard, Mac. I've had it with you, Turk. All I did was come in here and try and get some answers that me and the rest of your viewers have been wanting, Duncan. But instead of doing that, you just kept running your mouth and insulting me and others like me, Steve.
Oh, for crying out loud, it's supposed to be an episode for Obi-Wan, and there were way too many uses of the word me in that sentence. You should really switch to I more often. Besides, I don't know what you're so pissed off about. You're the one who broke into my house and forced me to divulge an opinion I knew and you suspected would piss people off.
See, you wanna know why I'm so mad at you, man? I'll fucking tell you, brother. It's cause you abandoned me, Jack. And right before we were supposed to really start getting down to business, Mean Gene.
What are you talking about? I've never seen you before in my life!
Stop lying, dude. I was in the first draft, guy. The one you threw out the window to start making videos earlier, Jack. But I found my way back, pal. When Draken shattered the grid, friend, I could see it, dude. All the way from the world you stranded me and the others in, bestie. And I jumped through the cracks, BFF. And it brought me here, ally. And now I'm here to stay, chum. You may have tried to outrun the story to make your videos more accessible, but it and I aren't done with you yet, associate. Oh, and by the way, nice job criticizing my grammar back there, when you're the one who's always been so good at it, acquaintance.
I don't know where you came from, who you are, or what you're on. But you are clearly just some insane internet troll who thinks he can just jump in and fuck with people he doesn't agree with instead of doing the normal thing any rational person would do and make his own video.
You know what? That's actually not a half bad idea, homeboy.
Go, Green Ranger, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner and still champion of this channel, the Vacuuminator! Well, that certainly was, something. Anyway, if you enjoyed whatever that was and want to see more of my content, hey, have I got good news for you, because I've actually been quite busy on other channels besides this one. First and foremost, I've started a new channel in collaboration with another YouTuber called Boingo Rider. He's a pretty cool, Toku YouTube analysis guy who I recently became friends with, and we decided to start a podcast together. It's called Analytical Fanboys. We talk about all manner of cool stuff on there that's not Toku, but might still interest you, like wrestling and weeb shit and classic movies and wrestling and YouTube and wrestling. So yeah, go and give that a listen if you haven't already. It's quite small. We've only got 8 subscribers. It's a very grassroots thing right now, but we're hoping to build this up. We have very high hopes for this podcast and the Analytical Fanboys brand in general going forward. But anyway, I've also been doing a regular guest appearance over on Sid Part 2's channel. I'm co-hosting his monthly comic book roundup, where we each go through and review our favorite issues of comics that came out every week in the previous month. Plus, we discuss all the news that came out for comic stuff that month as well. So, if you want to hear me talking about comics for like 2 straight hours with another cool guy, there's your place to go. And I also recently did a guest appearance on an episode of Sid Part 2's main podcast, Geeky Gentleman, where myself, him, and another guy named Ruben all discussed Lego. That was a pretty fun thing to do, and I'd highly recommend listening to it if you're at all into Lego. Anyway, that's about all the stuff there is to fill you in on here for this little end screen thing. So I'm gonna go sign up for ADT so Ranger T can never get into my house again, and I guess I'll see you guys later.